the Heartland Huddle podcast. This is Eric, my co-host Xavier, and we've got the draft episode. So
Yes,
an
sir.
exciting weekend of NFL draft. Obviously, a lot of things to talk about for not only our respective teams, the Chiefs and the Lions, of course, but also Shedeur Sanders talk. Implications in the NFL and what sort of things transpired to maybe lead to his fall and drop in the draft. But as always, we start out. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. This is the Heartland Huddle, Chiefs, Lions, and NFL talk. Once again, I'm Eric, joined by my co-host Xavier. Like I said, like and subscribe. You can catch us every week on our YouTube channel, Heartland Insights, NFL Debates and Insights. And of course, you can search at Heartland NFL Talk. Please like and subscribe. X, let's jump into it, man. It's always one of our favorite times of the year, the
Yes, sir.
NFL draft. We're in that period to where the Super Bowl ends in mid-February. Usually the Chiefs are in that, all right? And then
They were.
we have this 3-week period, and the combine rolls around. We kind of check out the combine, great. But it's really that draft that we start to see. Free agency then hits, and then the draft. And we really see the teams, okay, they signed these guys, and now what are the needs going into the draft that they didn't address in free agency? And we're
Yeah.
through that period. We're into the draft. And so I wanted to start out with the Kansas City Chiefs. Your initial thoughts? What were some of the needs and your initial thoughts on some of the Kansas City picks and or just overall direction of the team?
My initial thoughts is, of course, O-line, left tackle, maybe a guard or two. I think tight end. We should have got a tight end. I think
Yeah.
maybe another corner on
Yep.
defense
Yeah. Good.
and kind of stiffen up the. Well, no, they're pretty good at linebacker, but you can always still have somebody solid waiting in the wings. So, yeah, that was my initial thoughts of what I think they needed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're
Oh yeah,
exactly right.
and a running back too, and a running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
No, you
need a
hit
new
the
running
nail on
back.
the head, man. And
Yeah,
I agree with you. That was kind of the needs going in. Listening to Mel Kiper and some of the guys going into the draft, that was the biggest needs. And we watch football, right? We watch the Super Bowl. We know that the 2 Super Bowls the Chiefs have lost in the last 5 years have been due to the offensive line. And we knew
hmm
Brett Veach was going to attack that. He did that with the first pick, number 31. Well, excuse me. They flip-flopped with Philadelphia, picked up an extra 5th-round pick and
yeah,
drafted at 32 and drafted Josh Simmons, the offensive left tackle out of Ohio State. I love the pick. As you talked about, need last year we took Kingsley Suamate-Ia out of BYU in the first or early second round and didn't work out. He got beat like a drum the first 2 games of the season.
that's how it
And
goes.
so here we are now. It's sort of one of those things, I guess, Xavier. I don't know. Throw something at the wall and see what sticks. And when you're talking about Mahomes' blindside protector, that's what we're having to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Suamate last year, Josh Simmons this year. And so it's one of those things. Hopefully he sticks. Great size, a little bit shorter arms, but an absolute mauler, in the run game. Great pass blocker. I know he had a knee injury, a patellar tendon injury in
uh-huh.
college halfway through this past season.
Oh,
And
okay.
they were saying, if it wasn't for that, he's a top 10, top 15 type of talent, type of guy. Might have been the best tackle in the draft. So I think it was
Mm,
incredible value to get him there at the end of the first round and to
yeah,
pick up an extra 5th as well.
yeah,
Going further than that, going kind of looking to the second round of things,
hmm
we picked up a defensive tackle out of Tennessee. He's a rotational piece. A lot of
yeah.
upside, but he's going to slot in nice with Chris Jones. I thought they did a great job there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we'll talk about the Lions, of course, but both taking Ohio State prospects, by the way. Tyler
Sure
Boyd,
did.
will. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. But then they got this guy, Gelati, I believe his last name is, an edge rusher out of Louisville, who I think is going to be a stud. We're going to pair him opposite of George Karlaftis.
Okay.
Clearly, the Chiefs can use some more pressure. They said he has a high-end motor. Had 22 and a half sacks in college over the last 3 years, I believe.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So he's the guy. He was one of Mel Kiper's kind of sleeper orange crusher list guys, and so I thought for those reasons, I thought we had a heck of a second round. And then, well, Ashton Gelati, yeah, out of Louisville, he was in the third round. And then, we don't need to go into the 4th, 5th, 6th, and stuff like that. But lastly, the Chiefs traded back up into the third to get Noel Williams, who is a ball hawk out of Cal. Yeah,
Yeah,
7 picks last year, led the entire FBS. Good size, ball hawk
yeah,
raw. But we've
yeah,
seen what Dave Merritt, our D-backs coach, along with Andy Reid and the rest of the staff, Steve Spagnuolo, have done with the corner. So to your point, X, talking about a cornerback as a need, we're
yeah,
gonna have to pay Trent McDuffie. We see
yeah,
what Stingley or whatever, got a fat deal for Houston. We're
yeah,
gonna have to pay McDuffie, and we've got 3 corners that are all free agents after this next year. So needed to kind of refill
yeah.
those
Absolutely,
assets.
absolutely, absolutely. That's what smart GMs do. They stay on top of things.
And so overall, in terms of the draft, I give the Chiefs about a B plus. I think you can only do so much when you're picking, of course, at that 31, 32 pick every round.
Why a B
And
plus? What do you think they miss? Because when you say B plus, that means they miss something. What they miss?
yeah, good question. I think the Chiefs, I think they reached for the defensive tackle out of Tennessee a little bit in that second round. He
Uh,
was more slotted in the hundreds, maybe in round 3 to 4,
yeah,
and they maybe reached for him a little bit in the second. However, I like what Veach's strategy was to address need. And
yeah,
we lose Tershawn Wharton, who had a heck of a year last year, but you lost him in free agency this year, and you're a little thin on that defensive line. And I like where he
yeah.
slots. So we reached a little bit for him, so I'll give him maybe a B plus overall
You
on the
say
draft. But
when you say reach, you think he picked him a little too early?
correct. I think
Okay,
we maybe could have got him in the back half of the second, early third, possibly.
okay,
But
okay.
but at that point in the draft, you're drafting for need and different things like that. So I
Yeah,
like where they were at with
yeah.
it.
But overall, it was a big boy draft. Like it was a big fella
Yes,
draft. This draft. So yeah. So
it
maybe
was.
he would have been there. Maybe not. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
knows a little bit more than we do. So
Yeah, and yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And to your point, another need was running back, and we got a Brashad Smith in the 7th round, pick 228 out of SMU. Being down here in Dallas, I like my SMU ponies. They're kind of
yeah,
my yeah. I like my ponies. So another kid from Texas, big kid. I think he has an opportunity to obviously come in and back up. Cream Hunt and the boys, and so a lot of stuff there. I really running back wise, obviously, went to K State. Shout out Kansas State University. Was really looking at DJ Giddens, the
yeah.
running back out of Kansas State. I thought he was the guy we could target in that 4th to 7th round. He ended up going to Indianapolis, I believe, in the 5th, I believe. But he went to the
Okay.
Colts. But no, I mean, overall, looking at the draft, you go offensive tackle, you go defensive tackle, you go an edge rusher in the 3rd. So clearly the trenches is where we were needing help.
Yeah.
We did get another corner, that Noel Williams, who I talked about out of Cal. Jalen Royals, I forgot to admit. 4th round, pick 133 out of a Utah State. I guess he's another burner. Another late round Mike sleeper wide receiver prospect. I think Pat
Yeah.
Mahomes overall ended up pretty happy.
Yeah.
And then to your point, we went linebacker and running back. So overall, like I said, about a B plus draft for the Chiefs. So how do you see this draft or looking at some of the picks helping the Chiefs, or what do you think it projects to this next year?
Yeah, I think, Brett Beach is clearly he's a top 5 general manager in the league and he proves it every season. So I think he did a hell of a job. He addressed every area of need, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Getting as high as he can on each individual that he picks. So yeah, overall I give him a A because he addressed everywhere he needed and he got whoever he can get at
yeah,
said need that he needed. So yeah, I'll
yeah.
say that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think oftentimes we see a lot of GMs. It's best player available. You're stacking
Mm-hmm.
talent. You're stacking this and that. But at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, if you got an opportunity to go get a guy that you really like that fills an immediate hole, even on a rotational basis,
Yeah.
then you got to go get him. And I think that's a perfect segue into the Detroit Lions kind of transition in here. Once again, this is Heartland Huddle, Chiefs, Lions, and NFL talk. So we do have to transition to the boys up north. Initial thoughts on the Detroit draft, because I'm a little perplexed in a few ways, but initial thoughts on the Detroit draft.
I give Brad an A because
Oof,
we needed somebody on the defensive line. He got a
fair,
top tier D tackle out of Ohio State.
fair,
He addressed it the D backs with a safety. He addressed the offensive line. He got 2 guards.
yeah.
He got another edge player out of Boise State, and he got the wide receiver out of Arkansas. I can't think of his name right now,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
a
Yeah. I can,
beast.
I can, I can look him up. It
Yeah,
was Excuse me, Isaac Tesla.
Isaac Tesla, yeah, he's a monster. I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he started his career. He went to a small school and then he transferred to Arkansas from
Arkansas.
like a D2, I think. He was at like a Division 2
Uh huh.
and then went. So my initial thought, first of all, let me start out by saying, calm down, Detroit fans, Detroit Nation. You guys are always in my comments. Calm down here. I don't mind the draft. I like Tyleek Williams, your guys' first round pick. Clearly addresses, a clear need. Big boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a run stuffer. He's a run stopper. He's going to control his gap. He's going to help on the run.
Mm-hmm.
However, I had Detroit needing an edge. That's where I thought Detroit was going to go, was an edge rusher. And there were
Yeah.
2 or 3 edge rushers still on the board when Detroit picked that
Yeah.
I thought could have helped opposite of Hutch more than versus.
Yeah.
Listen, Detroit's had the top 3 ranked rushing defense the last 2 years. So, and you still got a Lee McNeil. I know he just got a deal,
Yeah.
and now, okay, let me collect my thoughts here. My thing with it is, to me, this pick was not just about value, but it was also projecting to the future as well. Brad Holmes, it wasn't just for today in this next year. It was also for a 2 or 3 years down the road as well.
Yeah, because DJ Reader only has this will be his last year on the
Yeah,
deal that he got, and DJ
yeah,
Reader will be out of the door because he didn't perform to where Detroit thought he would in the first place. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You barely heard his name even when he was in the game. You didn't hear his name a lot. I think he got 0 sacks all year. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I think our defensive line was the least sack team as far as getting sacks in the league. So I think that was his probably top reasoning for going for Talik Williams. You want a guy and he's a beast, 3 technique guy. He if you take from what I see now over the summer, by the time the season gets here, he's going to be a starter and you will hear his name. The guy knows what he's doing. He's very, very smart. He's instinctive. He knows how to follow the ball and he knows how to get to the quarterback. Just watching his highlights and what I've seen from him, yeah, Tyleek Williams is going to be a superstar on the defense next to Aiden Hutchinson for sure.
I pay attention to production, Xavier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The kid had 2.5 sacks in 2024 this past season.
Okay.
That's my thing. Is I was looking for Detroit to add something on the edge opposite of Hutch, not just another run stopper. Listen, I'm nitpicking. I'll admit it. I'm nitpicking here. I like the kid. I think he's going to be a stud. However, I think you could have got more value. My problem isn't with value here. Like I said, it's just more so I wanted Detroit to get more of an edge than, opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. But we'll see. He is a stud. Well, I think was a 3 or 4 year starter at Ohio State, which
Yeah.
obviously isn't hard, or it is hard to do,
He's a 4-year starter.
because
Yeah.
they have so much talent and stuff coming through every year and different things. But to talk about the second round pick though, they did get a pass rusher, Tate Ratledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll fit in nicely. I think he'll push the pocket quite a bit. And so I think he was picked at, they traded up from number 60 to pick 57 and got Tate Ratledge. Excuse me, I'm messing up here. He's a guard, from Georgia, was your guys' second round pick. I'm screwing up here. Tate Ratledge, he's a guard from Georgia. And we talked about that off camera before, that was another need for Detroit with that offensive line aging a little bit, that they were
Yeah.
going to need to get some depth pieces. Zeitler leaves in free agency, I believe. Skipper's getting older, and who else left off of Detroit's offensive line? Or did they get Jonah?
No, Jonah Jackson left last season. He went to the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then Zeitler left as well. So this was a need too. A Tate Ratledge, a guard out of Georgia. So I thought getting offensive line depth was a smart move by Brad Holmes as well.
Yeah, I was watching his highlights. I like him. I like him a lot. Didn't allow a lot of sacks. You know how to help his running back out as far as shooting through the gaps. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I think I think he was a good pickup. Yeah.
six
I don't
six
think he'll
three.
start. I don't think he'll start, but he'll play. But I don't think he'll
Oh
be a
yeah.
starter. Yeah.
I think, that's what they're saying. I think he'll work his way into some reps this year. I think you'll see him on the field. 6'6", 320.
Yeah, he a big
Sitting
dude.
there, that's a big boy. He's going to be able to handle some of them big boys in that AFC North class there. And so overall, like I said, I don't think Detroit's draft is bad. There's still a few picks for us to talk about here. I'm trying to get back to my list. I had all my notes.
My
Um,
favorite though. was Dan Jackson, the safety out of Georgia.
Okay, why do we like Dan Jackson?
I love him.
A
Instinctive.
seventh round guy.
Yeah, I don't know why I like him, man.
You
He was a
speak.
baller. I think he should have went higher, way higher.
Well, hey, Dan Jackson, safety out of Georgia. Well, here's the thing. Speaking of Georgia, you and the Eagles are starting to discover that, hey, these boys from Georgia on the defense are pretty dang good. You get Tate
Yeah.
Ratledge from Georgia, offensive guard. You go Dan Jackson, your safety that you really like, and then Dominique Lovett, wide receiver out of Georgia.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him too.
And then over the last couple of drafts, you've got those Bama boys, Jamison Williams. Obviously, you've got Brian Branch. So that SEC, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes like going down to that SEC Georgia Bama well as well,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
proven good for him the last few
Yeah,
years.
but Brad Holmes, he talked about it before he, took off and went to the Rams. He said he lived in Atlanta for a long time, and that was his area, was the whole Southeast. But he said he had been to more Georgia games than any other games in his
Yeah,
scouting career. So he knew a whole lot about Georgia, the coaching staff, and just watching the players grow, come out of high school and grow through, the Georgia program. So that's why he
yeah,
was so focused on Georgia. He felt like Georgia had a lot of great players that were going to come out this year. So that's why he
I
put his
see.
focus into Georgia. Yeah, he talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, I think the first two rounds were essentially all Big Ten and SEC picks. 7 out of the first 45 picks were from Ohio State.
Hmm.
Wonder why they won a national championship this last year.
Huh?
But back to, I wanted to touch on, because we did the wide receiver out of Arkansas, you had mentioned you like Isaac Tesla, or however, Tesla.
Tesla. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tesla.
Tesla, however you say it.
Yeah.
I don't know. There were still probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 wide receivers on the board at that time that I probably would have picked ahead of him. My only thing is, X, when you're looking at the draft as a whole, you really do have to look at that value spot. They made an aggressive move. Detroit did. They forked over 2026 third rounders to move up to get him.
Hmm.
Do we think that Isaac Tesla is that guy to fork over 2 third round picks in next year's draft?
Well, you have to think about it in a different way. And the reason I say that, has Brad Holmes let us down as far as his pick selection
No,
over the last few
no.
years? So you have to go into what you see him do, jump into his mind and see what he sees. You know what I'm saying? He sees something that nobody else sees. And ultimately, who he picks ends up working out for the most part, anyways. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I just try to look at it from his standpoint. He picked the guy for a reason. You know what I mean? It was very, very specific. Whatever that specific reason is, I don't know, but he knows. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So his picks, we trust. What do you guys say? In Veach, we trust. In Brad Holmes, we trust. You know what I'm saying? He hadn't really
Yeah.
he's literally put a team together over the last few years, a winning team. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I have to look at it from a standpoint of what made him pick him. You know what I mean? Maybe he think he'll boat well with Jared Goff. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he think he'll go well with Amara St. Brown. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I guarantee you. I say he plays. He'll make the team and he'll play a
Well,
lot.
yeah. Think if you give up 2 third round picks for him, I think he makes the team. And to your
Yeah, he
point, I
makes
mean,
the
six
team.
six 6'4", 217, big kid,
Big
right?
dude. Easy target in the red zone.
Easy target in the red zone. Obviously, you got Sam Laporta, you got Amon Ra's the guy. But that brings me to the next point, X. Where there is smoke, there is usually fire. Jamison Williams probably getting traded. Talk about it. Do we like it?
I kind of want to take it back now because they did pick up his 5th-year option.
They did. I was going to say that they picked up both his. We know why they picked up Aiden Hutchinson. They picked up both
Yeah.
him and Hutch 5th-year option. But
Yeah, they picked up both of it, but I don't know. I think to me, I think it was more so of the off the field stuff because he
sure,
got into a lot of stuff, off the field, and the gambling, being pulled over, having having a gun in the car, and all of that. That type of stuff. Just when you look at the history of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, they're gonna hesitate. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They can either get rid of you or keep you, or if we keep you, you're gonna wait to get paid. You know what I mean? So I just think it's more so of the off the field stuff, not necessarily him on the field. Because on the field, he's a beast, he's a monster. You know what I'm saying? He's been balling out. You know what I'm saying? The
yeah.
last couple of years. So I think it was more so of the off the field stuff. But they did pick up his 5th-year option. Only time will tell when that time comes. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
I absolutely hate it, and I think it's a stupid move if he does end up traded. And here's why. Jameson Williams, I understand the off-field stuff. And matter of fact, I was the one that was harsh on him over his first 3 years. And you kept
Yeah.
saying, give him the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt. He a young dude. I
Yeah.
get that. However, I was harsh on him. But
Yeah.
what cures all of that? Production and winning. And over the
Yeah.
last 2 years, particularly this last year, he broke the 1,000-yard mark.
Mm-hmm.
I could argue he was the most impactful player in that divisional round win 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when he had the 2 big touchdowns.
You talking about
My
against San
thing is,
Fran?
my thing is, keep working with him. And here's the thing: if you're going to pay him, give him 20, 22 million. You're getting second and third option wide receivers that are making 20 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, salary cap raises every year. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be just fine. Amon Ross paid. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
really another wide receiver on the roster that you have to pay.
No,
Pay
you don't.
JMO, get him cheap, fight his off-field problems, get him cheap on a 3-year deal, pay him 20 million per, and go get the production. But to
Yeah.
sit here and but to sit here and get rid of him, I mean, especially when your third option is what's his name, Tim Patrick,
Tim Patrick. Yeah.
who had a good solid year as a third
Yeah.
wide
Of course he
receiver in
did.
the offense this past year.
He did.
But golly, guys,
I mean, that's just Brad Holmes, man. He's like, oh, that's just his. That's Brad Holmes, man. Let's say no off the field stuff, and it was just solely based off of production. Guaranteed, he would have got paid. He would have got paid this offseason because it was time for him to get
yeah.
paid. So I ultimately think that's why he disconnected on social media from everything Detroit Lions, because once he realized, his agent was like, hey, look, they flat out said, hey, they're not going to pay you this year. You know what I'm saying? And I think he took that to heart, took that to brain, and he took action on canceling everything, all Detroit Lions on social media or whatever. So, but I mean, some teams are like that. Some are not. That off the field stuff, it'll get you. It'll come back and bite you. You know what I mean?
Well, it happens to the Chiefs all the time. All we do is sign criminals and win Super Bowls, but then we
Yeah,
have to
you
get
ain't.
rid of them.
Yeah, you ain't
Hey,
lying. But
center yourself up a little bit in
okay,
the
but
camera. Yeah, there you go. Because you're kind of half your face is cut off. There you go. There you go. Or at least
okay,
a little
okay,
bit from
okay.
mine. And I can edit that out or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, go
but I
ahead.
think
Finish your thought.
I don't know. Maybe he'll get paid after this fourth year. We'll see. Because you remember, he
Yeah.
never played the first year. He was hurt. You know what I mean, with the
Yep.
ACL injury over there. So maybe he'll get paid after next year, or maybe he'll get traded. I don't know. We'll see. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, with getting
Brad Holmes, man, he's iffy, man. He don't. Brad Holmes wants zero tolerance from troublemakers. Zero tolerance. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And
yeah,
you could tell he has a natural, genuine love for Jameson Williams. You could tell when he talks about him. It's almost like he like a daddy that want to whoop his ass sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. He may get paid. He may not. I don't know. Give us one more solid year. Make him paid. You know what I mean? Make him paid. That's all I'll say.
yeah.
Make him paid.
Well,
And
well,
yeah.
I was going to say too that it seems to me that Jameson Williams was a bit of a Ben Johnson guy. And what I mean by
Mm-hmm.
that is the fact that one thing that we always loved about Jameson Williams, and I think the reason why Detroit has held on to him for the 3 or 4 years that they have, is because he runs a 4-2 whatever. We saw what he did for that first 2 quarters in that national championship game for Alabama against Georgia. He was absolutely knifing and carving up the Georgia defense. If he doesn't tear his ACL that national championship, Bama blows Georgia out. He then, like to your point, comes rookie year. He's recovering from the ACL, and then he has the off-field stuff, the gambling, all the stuff. He's not getting along with teammates, coaches, what have you. But there was always this potential that he had, not just because of his raw talent, but because of the way Ben Johnson called the offense and called
Mm-hmm.
plays.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally saw that last year. We were able to put those two things together. His talent, there was that sequence we talked about last year, Xavier. Was it in the playoffs when Amon Ra caught a ball over the middle of the field for 17 yards? And then
Mm-hmm.
I think Amon Ra caught another ball, and then it was 4th and 2, and they ran a pick play to JMO, and JMO caught it and just flat out beat the D back to the stick.
Yeah.
The very next play, set hut, Goff hands the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs,
Yeah.
32 yards into the end zone touchdown. And it was an explosive 3 or
Yeah.
4 play sequence that showcase the talent and athleticism that Brad Holmes has drafted. And you and I,
Yeah.
it was I was like, that's the way that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
saw that a little bit with JMO. Now that Ben Johnson's in Chicago as the new head coach, it always just seemed that, hey, we're going to hold on to JMO because we think him paired with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff is good. Now that Ben Johnson's gone, JMO, I don't know. It just felt like he was a Ben Johnson type of offensive guy to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll agree with that. I think J-Mo and Jahmyr Gibbs were, and of course St. Brown. I think St. Brown was just like his security blanket for every single play. If
Oh,
all else
absolutely.
fails, just go to St. Brown. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
will it look different? I think so. It may look slightly different. Do I think Jared Goff will try to hold on to a lot of the stuff? Hell yeah, he will because he's comfortable with it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think it'll look a little different. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think too much would change. I don't think we'll see any trick plays. You know what I'm saying? Well, we won't see as many of them. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
may see one or two throughout the season. But other than that, I think the offense will still be great. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, I
Jahmyr
agree.
Gibbs,
Yeah,
yeah,
they added to it. They added to the defense. And to the big point with the Lions, we know that one of the downfalls last year was just flat out injury. The injury bug
yeah,
late last season kicked the Lions' defense's butt. At one
it
point, they
really
were
did.
starting you and I back there at safety. And
Hmm.
whenever you've got Xavier and Eric starting at safety for you, you're probably going to lose games, not win them. And so,
Yeah.
I like what overall I like what Brad Holmes did in terms of just adding depth as well in case the injury bug bites again. But overall, I give the Lions maybe a C plus B. I just thought that I my own opinion, I really wanted a more traditional edge rusher to be drafted in that first round opposite of Hutch. But overall, to your point, in Brad Holmes we trust, in Veach we trust, two of the best GMs in the game. And
Hmm.
overall, I'm excited to see where these young guys fit and play for the Lions and Chiefs. I know Patrick Mahomes is smiling. He's got a future blindside protector. He's got a nice, another speedy wide receiver to add to the receiver corps, and then some sneaky good defensive line stuff as well. So all in an effort to get back to the Super Bowl. Once again, guys, this is Heartland Huddle, Chiefs, Lions, and NFL Talk podcast. You can catch us every week on our YouTube channel. You can search at Heartland NFL Talk. I'm Eric, along with your co-host Xavier. Like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You can catch us every week. Look out for our episodes. So, with that, X, it's been a while. We haven't done our End Zone Insight segment.
Yes,
Brought to
sir.
you by absolutely nobody. I am drinking a Montucky cold snack today. So if Montucky, you'd like to sponsor the Heartland Huddle podcast, let me know. You can hit us up on our Gmail account. It's good. It's a light lager. It's a nice little Sunday fun day type of brew. And yeah. Anyway, so to kick off our End Zone Insight segment, let's just start here. Shedeur Sanders. First of all, Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, primetime son, for those of you who don't know, quarterback of the Jackson State HBCU college for the last couple of years, and the Colorado Buffaloes the last 2 years. Had his jersey retired along with Travis Hunter there in Boulder. Shedeur Sanders, who completed 72% of his passes and threw for 4,100 yards. Shedeur Sanders, who is incredibly brash, confident, and definitely his daddy's son. He slides in the draft. We all thought he had a first round grade. Thought that maybe he could slide to number 2, but nobody actually saw a fifth round pick to Cleveland. What do you think happened, Xavier? What were some of the narratives around Shedeur, and how does this? What do you think happened?
My own personal thoughts, my personal opinion is the arrogance. It's nothing wrong with being arrogant, but you still have to control what you say. You know what I mean? You have to think twice about what you say. When somebody's asking you a question, you need to be humble and answer the question in the proper way. You know what I mean? And don't be, what do you say to the teams that should draft you? Oh, if you don't draft me, you a fool. Why would you say that? Why
Yeah,
in the hell would you say that? You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Now everybody's a goddamn fool now, huh? Because nobody was coming to get you. They probably were at some point, but I think just the way he talks to the media and he didn't speak in a humble way at all. You know, I mean, the kid's already worth $10 million, you know what I'm saying? And he's primetime son. But even still, you have to say, hey, look, until you get to a certain point,
yeah,
change how you talk. change the way you speak, be humble. You have to think and talk a certain way. So until you get to that level, then once you get to that level, you have one solid good season, then you talk how you want to talk. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But for now, you be respectful and you say all of the right things so you can get in position. But I don't think Dion thought that he'd slip that far. Nobody thought he slipped that far. Because when he didn't
No.
go that first night, I knew guaranteed the second night. But then he didn't go the second night. I'm like, oh my God. Said had to call me and tell me that he got drafted in the 5th round. I was like, finally.
Yep.
Because I
Their
just didn't
last
know.
pick.
And yeah, and then Shiloh went undrafted. So,
Went to the side note on that, yes, went undrafted and then signed right after the draft with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He
Buccaneers.
Shiloh Sanders, the brother, is with Tampa Bay. X, let me ask you though.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a follow up though. One, is it arrogance? Two, what's the difference between arrogance and self assuredness or confidence? And number two, are we only saying it because he's a young African American black kid, the son of Deion
No,
Sanders?
no. I'm only saying it because you have to be a certain way. We know that. It's common sense, man. If you look at the history of the NFL, I hate it. I hate it because it's so cliche. You get all of these cliche answers, and that's fine. You don't have to be cliche, but you don't call teams fools at the same time. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's just about watching what you say and saying the right things at the right time. That's all it was. As simple as that. You can be arrogant, you can be confident, you can be all of those things, but that don't mean you let it flow out of your mouth. You know
yeah,
what I mean? That's all I'm saying. You can do what you want. And then we seen what doing what you want got you too. You see what I'm
sure.
saying? You went from possibly $20 million on your first contract to maybe $1 million a year on your first contract.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then
Okay.
if Cleveland wanted him at first, maybe Cleveland's thinking like, man, we can't pay Deshaun 50 million and him 20 million. Like we just can't do that. You know what I mean? Maybe that could have been a reason. I don't know. Because everybody just assumed he was either going to go to Cleveland or at 21 he was going to go to Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh psyched everybody out because Mike Tomlin had everybody thinking that he was going to get him,
Vegas
and
was
he
in there
didn't.
too a little bit. Vegas, the Raiders were in there too a little bit.
Yeah,
They, Vegas just has their, new, well, Pete Carroll, and then who they signed, quarterback. Oh, Geno Smith. Geno Smith just went
Geno
from
Smith. Yeah,
Seattle
yeah,
to, but we thought that maybe Shedeur could sit a year or two behind Geno, and then, okay. So I agree. Well, to your point, first of all, yes, to our listeners, to our subscribers, yes, there is some reporting out there that it came out that some NFL executives reported that Shedeur Sanders allegedly sandbagged some of the interviews he had with teams that he didn't think were going to draft him or teams that he didn't want to go to. Mind you, last August, Dion, his dad, came out, Primetime, Coach Prime, came out and said that he'd sort of Eli Manning, Archie Manning the situation. If it was a situation or a team that he felt Shedeur wouldn't be successful in, that he would try to change that and maybe push him in a different direction to another team. So therefore, it speaks to a larger point. Number one, I think what we don't realize is I don't want to throw the word privilege or entitlement out there. I just want to put it as the road has been paved, not just through negligence or excuse me, not negligence, nepotism, but through he went to Jackson State. He did what he did at Jackson State. His dad coached him. He therefore then went to Colorado. His dad gets the job at Colorado. But his dad's always been able to control the narrative around his son. We know how brash Dion is. He's the greatest
yeah.
quarterback to ever live. One of the greatest
Love him.
athletes we've ever seen. But his
Yeah.
dad was able to control the narrative for him at Jackson State. Well, in high school, at Jackson State, at Colorado. He was able to shield Shedeur from a lot of negativity, a lot of detractors, a lot of sticky situations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, it's 2025. Dion, you haven't played ball since 2002 or whenever it was, and you can't shield him from the narratives and what NFL executives think of your son now. And he got
Yeah.
a very big dose of that. However, what I wanted to bring up though, Xavier, not like I said, not that I wouldn't necessarily call it arrogance. I would call it brashness. And me, you know me, I'm a talker. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm a talker. However, the only problem I had is Shedeur, you have to recognize the reason why your dad was able to do what he did and talk the way he talked, and wore the chains and wore the jewelry and was an iconic cultural fit for our society was because he was one of one. He was one of one talent. He ran a 4.21, 4.18, whatever it was in the 40. He knew he was going top two, top three, top four. It was no question, no doubt about it. Your dad can quite literally back it up. Shedeur,
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with you walking your walk, talking your talk, doing what you do, but you have to tailor your brashness to your talent. Somebody doesn't get to talk like LeBron does, or Michael Jordan, or Patrick Mahomes, or imagine if Tom Brady was talking like that coming out the draft, coming into the draft. Now, hindsight's 2020, revisionist history, we can go back and say, yeah, Tom Brady can say whatever he wants nowadays. But going into the draft, Tom Brady knew he wasn't going to be a top whatever pick. He
Yeah,
knew
he
he
knew
didn't
that.
have the talent, the raw physical athletic talent to sit there and talk like that. And so I have no problem with guys being confident and cocky, so to speak. We see it all the time with guys who are drafted in the second, third. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tell me that boy ain't arrogant and cocky and brash.
Now he
But
is.
but he plays with that on his shoulder. He's proven it and he's done it and he backs it up. Shedeur, we don't know, right? So that's point number one. Your dad could do it because your dad was one of one. You can't do it because you're not that talented. You're talented, but not. You're not him. You're not whatever the young kids are using nowadays, right?
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. Like, dude, slow down, be humble. They probably don't. He probably don't even know the definition of humble. But I tell you what, I watched the whole
Well,
video of him getting the phone call. You should have seen the look on Primetime face. It humbled him.
yeah,
Him
yeah,
getting drafted,
yeah,
and it
it did.
humbled. I watched the entire video. It
Yeah.
humbled him, and he didn't even smile. He ended up talking to Cleveland after Shedeur
Mm-hmm.
did, and was like, "Thank y'all for
Thank
picking
you,
him. Like,
Jesus.
thank you
Yeah,
for
he
picking
said,
him.
"Thank you,
You know what I
Jesus."
mean? Thank you,
Yeah,
Jesus. Thank you for picking him, because gotta watch what you say, man. These people, they care about who you is, but they don't care about who you is. You know what I mean? They don't have a reason to. They're in a position to pick you. You just need to be humble until you get picked. You know what I mean? But he played that wrong. I'll say that. But now
you're
just
right.
be quiet, because your own damn teammates gonna make you feel it. They gonna make you
Yeah,
feel it. That defense, and we know Cleveland got a top 5 defense. They gonna make you feel it. They gonna hurt
yeah,
you. They gonna break you. They gonna hurt your feelings. They're gonna break you. They're gonna use and abuse you, man. So you better get ready. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So
Now,
that's all I'm saying.
now, I want to take it a step further. I want to ask you too, because oftentimes you and I disagree about these things sometimes. And just to kind of fill the listeners in, this was before we started this podcast, Heartland Huddle, Chiefs, Lions, and NFL Talk. A few years ago when Lamar Jackson was going through all his contract disputes and talks and negotiations with the Baltimore Ravens, and I want to take it to a real personal standpoint and a real candid standpoint for a second. Obviously, you're a dark skinned black man. I'm a biracial man. I grew up in rural Kansas. You grew up in, the inner cities of Little Rock, Arkansas, and Detroit, Michigan. And we have two different cultural experiences for the majority of our lives. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I fail to see some of those larger issues as it pertains to black men and particular sports and things like that. And oftentimes, you are trying to understand my perspective from more of a, I'll just call it a rural view. I'll leave it there. However, but I was surprised at this talk on Shedeur because I'm usually one that takes the side of the corporation or the organization. You don't get to make the money unless you win Super Bowls. That was my big crux with Lamar Jackson. And your big crux was, hey man, get it wise high. You're Lamar Jackson. You're doing what you do. Make your money. You deserve it. Get it while it's hot. And I'm sitting here telling you, I'm not giving him all that guaranteed money. And so, to our subscribers, that was the genesis of the conversation. But to bring it relevant and to bring it current to the Shedeur Sanders talks, I'm more on the player empowerment side with Shedeur. And I
Hmm.
think, but now I want to talk about the football side of it. Do you think Shedeur Sanders was, I'm talking strictly football here, talent. I'm not talking personality. I'm not talking from a pure football standpoint, do you think Shedeur Sanders was penalized for being black because he's not Lamar Jackson or a Anthony Richardson for the Colts who has crazy traits? Meaning, Do you think Shedeur Sanders being black but being a traditional drop back Tom Brady-ish passer actually works against him? Because now in today's modern game, we see black quarterbacks. It's Lamar. And if you don't have that though, then what are you? Do you think his lack of black quarterback talent actually worked against him in his evaluation?
A little bit. And I say a
Okay.
little bit because this is a monkey see, monkey do league. Because you have one team that'll sit back, well, let's see what they do first. Okay, they did it. It worked out. Now I want to do it. Then you have the next team. These two teams did it. It worked out. Now I want to do it. But what I don't think that was it, man. I mean, he
Okay.
plays like a traditional quarterback. And at some one point, that's what it was all about. Oh,
That's what
you
I'm
don't
saying.
need
What's a
no
traditional quarterback? That's what I'm saying. What's a traditional
pocket, just
quarterback?
a pocket passing quarterback.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But which was traditionally, the
But
white
if you're
guys.
gonna, but to my point, if you're gonna play that way and you're gonna be that type of pro style system drop back quarterback, which he is, which is fine, but also be black. My thing is isn't the expectation in today's game that you're supposed to have both scramble, run, extend plays?
That's a little prejudice to a point because
Okay,
he's not that.
he's
And
not that. But so do
he's
you
not
think
that.
that worked
Simple as that.
against him?
It could have. I don't know. I think we don't hear the intricate details of exactly what it is. We
Sure,
just
sure,
know what came through the speakers of the TV. That's all we know. And
sure.
what we see on YouTube or whatever, that's all we know. And me personally, like I said, I gave my opinion on it. I just thought it was just the way that he talked. You know what I mean?
So
Of course he can.
you thought it was the pre-draft interviews, the evaluation process,
Yeah. They say
the
he
brashness.
I think San Fran interviewed him, I believe. They said it had to been one of the worst interviews they ever done in their NFL career. It's
Yeah,
like talking to him was like talking to a brick wall. Like, you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like so I mean, and that plays a lot into it because you can be black, you can be white, but they still want you to be smart. They still want you to be brilliant. You know what I mean? You still gotta, you gotta be smart, man. You gotta have brains. You can't have
but is
brains but let
but
stupid
isn't
stuff
he?
come out.
But isn't
He
he?
is.
He's been trained by Tom his entire life.
Yeah, he is, but that's not what he was. The smartness wasn't coming out of his
Was
mouth,
he
is what I'm
portrayed? He
saying.
didn't portray that.
He didn't portray himself to be
Sure.
smart. He portrayed himself to be, hey, you should be pick me. If not, you a fool. That's what came out of his mouth. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And in this day and age, you have to understand who the hell you talking to. They're paying you. You're not paying them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They're picking you. You're not picking them. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And once you get a good
Yeah.
understanding of that, maybe that would have changed his mindset. So all of the people that he have around him, nobody told him that. If I was there, I would have told him that. Like, bro, you might want to watch what you say. I'm gonna just keep it 100 with. You can keep talking the way you talk, but I bet you feel it. Emotionally and physically, you're gonna feel it. I would have told him that
Sure.
just being older and seeing what I've seen in my adulthood over the years. I would have told him that. And when you look at the video of them being out in Kenton, Texas at his dad house, it was so many black men there. And not one person told him that. Not
Yeah.
one. Out of all the men that were there, after all of their years of experiences, nobody told him to watch his mouth. I would have told him to watch his mouth. You can be smart and say dumb stuff,
Yeah.
or you can
I
be smart
I
and
do it
say
every day.
smart stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're
We
right.
all do, but there's a time and place for that. And when you're in these corporate offices or rooms or whatever it is, because NFL is corporate, NBA is corporate, NHL is corporate, MLB is all corporate. Dude, you have to be smart and say smart stuff. You don't be
Yeah.
smart and say dumb stuff, you're gonna look dumb. And that's how they're
Sure.
gonna take it. Like, this dude is an idiot. He can play, but he's stupid. You know what I'm saying? And that's the last thing you want them to think. They didn't think that about Cam Ward. You see what I'm
Sure.
saying? They didn't
But
think that
but
about
let
him.
me pause you right there though. Let me pause you right there though. Fair. However, there was never speaking purely of the football side and the talent side of
And
it.
sometimes it goes further than that, though.
No, but Xavier, here's what I'm trying to say though. Shedeur Sanders always had from a top 3 pick to a potential second round grade. There was a
Yeah.
wide variance of chance. Like you said, nobody saw fifth round. I don't think he should have gone fifth round.
Yeah, no, I didn't see fifth
But
round.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, but he fits the with Cam Ward. There was never. It was top 3 or not like that. Number
Number
one,
one.
number 2, or not, whatever it was. He was going to go top 5. We'll just say
Yeah.
top 5. That's what I'm saying. Because and the reason why we thought that and he was great at that is because he has the physical attributes and tools and can scramble and can run and showcase his quote unquote black athletic quarterback ability versus Shedeur, who can't get out of the pocket and escape pro pass rushers.
Yeah.
So that's my point is that I and I'm with you on the whole brashness, arrogance, and all of those things. Absolutely. But from a football standpoint, I think you're a damn joke if you're not taking him first or second round from a pure football standpoint. I think he's going to be good. I don't care what comes out of his mouth. At the end of the day, X, my job is to win football games. If I'm a head coach, if I'm Brian Daboll, and this is probably my last go around with New York. You trade
It
back
is
into
his
the first
last go
round to go.
around
You,
with New
you trade
York.
back into the first round to go get Jackson Dart,
Yeah,
or you
he
gonna
get.
trade back into the first round to go get Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. From a football standpoint, he can say and
yeah.
do whatever he wants at. Because the fact of the matter is, if he had the Lamar Jackson attributes, if he had the Anthony Richardson attributes, they
He would have
wouldn't have
got
given
picked.
a damn that he was arrogant.
I agree with that. Now that you say it and put it like that, I agree with that. But I'm gonna be honest, man. I just don't see. I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I don't see no New York teams picking a black quarterback. Like in the history, present,
Yeah.
future, I don't see it. They will take their chance on a white guy before they pick any black guy. I don't give a damn what his background and statue is and character is. You know what I'm saying? That was just me. I never seen New York ever. The only black quarterback they had was Tyrod Taylor, and he was a backup. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I just
Hold
never
on one
seen it.
second. That's interesting. That's interesting because I think you're I think you're right on that, and I can come back to that. Okay, no, that's an interesting point. Yeah, overall, it's interesting, and we know that the NFL draft, the NFL combine, all this offseason stuff isn't an exact science.
Of
And who
course.
knows? These guys, these men and women are getting paid a hell of a lot more than you and I are getting paid
Of
to
course.
make these decisions, and who knows what goes into all of that. But I just thought it was interesting. I've never seen a slide like that. I've been on this earth 31 years. I've been watching the NFL draft for a number of those. And I've never seen a slide like that, especially for a kid who I think is going to be a very, very solid NFL starting quarterback. I don't.
Yeah.
He's not, and I can be realistic about that. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. Name any Joe Burrow. What, and that's fine. But
Hmm.
do I think in the right system with the right personnel that Shedeur Sanders, who has been mentored and coached by Tom Brady and Deion Sanders his entire life, do I think that he can have a lot of success?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. A lot
And
more
he's gonna
success than
start.
some of these guys in the NFL.
And he's gonna start as that fifth round pick. Game one of 2025 L season, he will
No,
start. He'll
no, they still
start.
have no. They signed Flacco, and they have it's Flacco, and who do they sign?
He'll
Who,
start over Flacco.
you said what?
He'll start over Flacco.
No, but they also have who else did they get? They have Flacco and gosh dang it. Let me look. Hold on. Give me a second.
He'll start over both of them.
Oh well, Deshaun Watson's hurt. They got Flacco and Kenny Pickett. And then they
Kenny
drafted
Pickett, yeah.
Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon in the 4th round, and then Shedeur in the 5th. So he's got to beat out. He's got to be out Flacco and Kenny Pickett.
He will. He will. I think he will.
Which
I think he will.
how ironic if he does, and everybody let him slide that far.
He will. Trust me, he will. It's all the game they wanted to play with him. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
He may not. You know what I mean? I
And
mean,
on a lighter note, moving on. Good Shedeur talk. Good Shedeur talk. On a lighter note, Travis Hunter, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars being extremely aggressive, trading up to the 2nd pick and taking Travis Hunter, who we all think
as
talk
he
about
should have been.
physical talents and attributes. Yeah, that's that guy.
Hmm.
Just a fun question, Xavier. Which side of the ball would you see? Would you want to see Travis Hunter play more of? Not what you think he's going. What side of the ball do you want him to play more of?
A defense.
You think he's a better cornerback?
No, well, you asked me what I want to see him play.
Okay, fair. Okay. you like that. You like watching them lock
Yeah,
down.
yeah. I want to see him on defense, but when you think about the offensive plays that he made this past season, he's like, well, he know how to get the ball. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
both sides.
But
Yeah,
but I would kind of want to see both, man. But I'll probably go more so on the cornerback.
you'd
Yeah.
rather see him play more corner. I think
Hmm.
I'd probably rather see him play more corner as well, just because I'm a defensive guy and I love when you watch a guy like a Sauce Gardner or a Trent McDuffie. When you
Hmm.
watch guys lock down, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
spectacular. However, Ryan Thomas Jr., the first round draft pick of Jacksonville last year, who had a hell of a out of LSU, who had a hell of a rookie year.
Hmm.
They need help on that side of the ball, especially Christian Kirk's gone and all that. So I think he plays offensive more as a second option for Trevor Lawrence. That offense kind of needs help. I would have liked to see Jacksonville get a running back as well.
Hmm.
Obviously, they could have got Ashton Genty. There was Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina, who was still on the board, of course. But yeah, having Travis Hunter opposite of Brian Thomas Jr., that's going to be a hell of a duo there as well. Do you think he can sustain 100+ snaps on both sides of the ball in the
No,
NFL game? A 17-week season?
no,
Yeah,
nope,
yeah, I
nope,
agree. I think he
nope.
can. I think he can do. I think he'd be an effective guy, but I on both sides
And
of the ball. But
because they know that's what he wants,
yeah,
they'll ultimately play him on defense, and like they say, they'll work him into some offensive plays when needed. Probably when they're on like the 40-yard line going into the red zone or something. You know what I mean? He may come in for a play or two. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's just what I think. But he won't 100% just be on the field the entire game. You know what I mean? You can't do that. They're not going to let him do that. And they're going to have that talk with him like, hey, look, you ain't doing that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
care what you know what I mean?
yeah,
You're not doing that.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he said on draft night they were willing to let him do his thing, let him spin, and I think if you're Jacksonville, you're dumb not to let him try both sides of the ball. But
Yeah, you let
yeah,
him
I
do
think
it for
it's gonna
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
You
gonna
let him
be
do it.
it's gonna be interesting. So no, just always fun. So but no, overall I think that's what we've got today, Xavier. It's always interesting. We try to make it through this off season before we get into training camp. Next up, of course, is mini camp and OTAs. And then we have that weird month and a half break. And then of course you get into training camp, preseason, and in the season. So, no, I think that about does it for our draft episode. Always fun to watch draft night. Once again, subscribers, listeners, we've got some fun stuff coming up this summer. Watch out for our schedule. I believe the schedule drops May 15th of date and times. So we do know that the Lions play in Kansas City this year. Watch out for that, subscribers, as I think we've got some fun stuff coming up for that game. We'll have a whole scheduling episode. But with that, I think we're good to go. Once again, like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. Engage with us in the comments. Excuse me. I guarantee you'll get a reply. And let us know what we can do better, what content you guys would like to hear, and always engage in the discussion with us. So once again, this is Heartland Huddle, Chiefs, Lions, and NFL Talk podcast. You can hop on our YouTube channel at Heartland NFL Talk. With that, we are out.
See you.
Peace.